Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast, and madness it has been in the last 24 to 36 hours, Pete. Before we get going, though, thank you so much for listening. If you're new here, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe on YouTube. If you are on the podcast apps, please subscribe, please rate. It helps as we're going along here. I'm sure in this opening segment, we will have quite the opinionated listener base. Please, please, please go to the comment section on YouTube, comment, call out timestamps. If you have an opinion on anything we are talking about, please comment. It helps get us out there. It's season 4. And once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Pete, I went with Chick-fil-A last night for dinner. I went with fast food to soothe the pains of watching that game. I wish I would have had some Two Men in a Garden salsa. It is truly the one thing associated with Billiken basketball that never has ever let me down. It's always good. It's always delicious. It, of course, is local. Tastes amazing. They've got all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preferences, no matter what you're feeling. Are you feeling hot? They've got hot. You feeling mild? They've got mild. You feeling a little fruity? They've got that peach mango, that mango salsa. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. You can pick up all these products at twomeninthegarden.com online. You can also catch them in grocery stores. They are in all local grocery stores. But if you're particular about your salsa taste, you want to hit them up online. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, Zach, there's no clean intro to what we're feeling right now, to what we witnessed this week, to what the state of the program is. I mean, we just basically need to get into these games, man, and talk about what happened and what we do next, because the men's basketball program of St. Louis University is in a pit of despair right now.
Yeah. But I will say I'm a bit ashamed to start it off like this. Because I had fun at the Utah State game. I really did enjoy a bit of it, and a lot of it was, I got to hang with a buddy and we were sitting in some really nice seats. Got to heckle the referee from close up, I don't know. Just a fun time, but none of it was really none of it correlated to Billiken basketball directly.
No, it sure didn't. I mean, this was not a good game. And even though the final score was 81 for Utah State and 76 for SLU, it wasn't that close, Zach. I mean, this was not a 5 or 6 point game at all. I mean, most of the game. I think SLU was actually down by as much as 20 in this one. I think it was 60-40 with about 12 and a half minutes to play. And then somehow SLU goes on a late 11-0 run to get it to within 5 with a minute 41 to play. And yeah, we weren't ultimately able to catch up here. Ran out of time, ran out of ideas, but anyway, it just wasn't as close as the score shows, is what the bottom line is.
Do you think that this was, because I know that there are people who are going to say that this was Utah State letting up, but also you go back to watching the Billikens play, and the Billikens have turtled once they got big leads. Parked the bus and seen teams come back on them. How much of this really was Utah State just kind of being like, well, it's wrapped up?
It felt like when they came out of that final media timeout, there was just a difference in how they were playing, right? I mean, like they hadn't really led up to that point, and it just seemed like they were trying to slow things down and take the air out of the ball a little bit. And for whatever reason, Meadows and Jimerson kind of saw that, smelled a little chum in the water, and then they got going. But unfortunately, it was too little, too late. I think I don't want to put it completely on Utah State. I mean, like I said, Meadows and Jimerson really did spark this thing to keep them in it. You know, I think it was, let's see, what, 141. Brown from Utah State hits a three, and then SLU converts, gets a stop, and then Hargrove winds up with a 3-point play with 18 seconds left, and we're down 79-76. And you know, it just didn't. We ran out of time, really, right? I mean, like,
but doesn't everybody run out of time, Pete?
I do, I know. And as I say that, I wonder if this game went on another minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, do you think SLU would have won it? I'm not so sure. I think kind of our disadvantages of this one, you know, were too much to overcome. But they had a big man, Zach, who feasted against SLU in this game. He was averaging 20.5 and 10. And when he went out with, he was exceeding those averages when he went out.
He did come back, by the way.
5.5 minutes. He did come back. He did come back. But I mean, I think that was part of why they looked a little, you know, they were giving him a breather, and why they looked a little more, I don't want to say lethargic, but just not themselves, not 100%. So I think that's definitely part of it. But yeah, got to within 3. Nobody saw that coming, including all the people who had headed for the exits at the under 4 media timeout. You know, they missed the best 4 minutes of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, like there were some entertaining parts of this game. I mean, the comeback there, of course, is entertaining. But really, I thought the best part of this game was watching the two goofy hair dudes battle in the post. Like you had Stefan Bussell and Isaac Johnson, who, by the way, screw that guy. That guy stinks. Like guy, I don't know if that guy's ever hit a 3-point shot before on the road.
Every time he hit one, it was like I've got the same feeling as. Do you remember the Grammatica brothers, those kickers? they would kick an extra point, and they would celebrate like they just won, you know, the World Cup, or something like that. But they were just field goal kickers, and they over celebrated for sure. But yeah, every time this guy hit a shot, that's right. Every time this guy hit a shot, he just lost his mind. And in a way that was like, it seemed like he was screaming at people too.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I
just
think
a weird dude.
Who did he looked like? He kind of looked like Kid Ray from Lean on Me.
I can't.
Oh my God. If anybody gets that reference, I love you. But he just looked like, I don't know who he looked like, an 80s baseball player.
Yeah, he's tall and skinny and goofy and with bad hair and
a mustache
Yeah, just a weird looking dude. And so when you got a guy who has all of that already going on, to like hit a 3 and then thump your chest and pound your fist and scream and grimace and all of that kind of stuff, it was way too much. But we did really struggle. I gotta give him credit. That's kind of the player that SLU struggles with all the time, right? Like a tall shooter, an inside out guy. He had 16. He didn't really do a whole lot in the second half, but he did plenty of damage in the first.
I mean, what, like you said, Jimerson and Meadows kept the Billikens in this game. Jimerson, I mean, he put forth a valiant effort in this one. I mean, you can't really just I find it hard to hate on Gibson Jimerson, because in this era of constant roster turnover, you have guys like Jimerson and Hargrove, and I find it hard to really go at those two, like, for things they do on the court, and especially where we're at in the fan base's mood about surrounding the coaching. You know, it's hard to go at the players, I think, especially the ones that have been here for 4 years.
Yeah, I agree. And
or there will
look,
be.
they're easy guys to, I think. Well, I mean, they're both in their fifth year now, right?
Yeah.
They're easy guys to root for that reason. They've got, Jimerson's got that quiet personality, gets his work done kind of thing. Hargrove's got that bigger personality, so they're a little bit different in that regard. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's every reason that we should really like these guys. The problem is there just really isn't a coherent vision of a team surrounding them right now. I would take them on just about any SLU roster ever, right? I mean, I think they both bring unique skill sets and different things to the team that you want. It's just it just feels like, unfortunately, this 28 point, 9 of 15 shooting, 3 of 8 from three, perfect from the free throw line, 5 assist game from Jimerson kind of gets wasted. But at the same time, it took that effort to really keep us in it. And then Meadows, Zach, I mean, he's a guy. I think he had 7 early on, right? And then I noticed late in the game he was still on 7. And I was like already putting in the notes for the show. I was like, here goes Meadows with his disappearing act again. And after that point, he scores 11 late in the second half, and along with Jimerson completely sparked that run. And you kind of saw signs of like, or what was it? Was it against Kansas when he was at Eastern Washington when he scored like 39 in a game?
Yeah.
You kind of saw flashes of like the guy who did that. And that's that's certainly there in his game. But yeah, it again, too little too late, I guess.
Yeah, I think I get frustrated with, and not frustrated with, but I guess frustrated. I don't know with whomst my frustration lies. I really
Mhm.
don't, because you talk about Meadows and that guy that can go off for 34, and he doesn't get involved. And it's not as though he doesn't have the ball in his hand. So I don't know if it's his personal decision to not, step in and take it. If he's, if Travis Ford is not preferring that he takes initiative on, with the ball in his hand. And again, like Kellen Thames too. These are both guys that could, make plays. We've seen Kellen Thames make a play for himself, get his own shot. These are both guys that when an offense is dog poop, they can make a play, and I just don't understand why neither of them are shooting at a volume that uh, shows up on the radar in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, God, we're at the point this season where it's like,
To
try
quote
anything.
my favorite Bill Murray quote of all time, it just doesn't matter.
Well, unfortunately, it does feel like that. But I would seize upon anything that kind of looks like it works or might work, or
Yeah.
anything like that, and really force the issue there. We talked about Hargrove, Zach. He had 14 and 4, not exactly efficient in this game, but as always, he brings a lot of energy. And then another guy I want to talk about, Tim Dalger here, is just, look, he had a terrible first half. He sat almost all of the second, but he came in late. He was brought in for the last few minutes. And Kellen Thames, who you just mentioned, ends up with 27 minutes. I have to think that that's a breakdown that you probably like to see.
Yeah, I would. I mean, look, like you want to see I guess again, we're talking about a program that we're not even sure is going to look remotely the same next year. Because I mean, we haven't gotten to talk about the SIU game, but it's so it almost feels futile to complain about playing time. But I mean, Kellen Thames is like he's the closest thing we have to what Sincere Parker does.
Yeah, and he's bigger, he's longer. He at least gives you something resembling a front court piece. To guard other guys. He's gotten into foul trouble in a few games so far, but I think of all of the young guys in this team right now, he's the one who has the strongest argument for leave him out there and give him some more run. Um, depending on Meadows, and we'll get to this, but his status going forward after the injury, I think Medley's a guy, who needs some more seasoning. But yeah, Thames is a guy I would be giving at least 20 minutes to a game so far,
Yeah, and
if not
give him the
25.
ball. Give him the ball and let him work.
Yeah. I do wonder if maybe the foul trouble is what has kind of kept him out of playing longer minutes recently, but I think generally trending over the course of the season, his minutes have gone up.
I don't think, and you talk about the foul trouble keeping him out, and I don't like want to. Uh, I don't. I think that people, myself included, have really cued in on a few individual defenders on this team, and I think incorrectly after the most recent games. I don't know if either, like, I don't think there's a uh, uh, a fundamentally sound defender on this team.
But it's a team effort, right? Like the whole team defense looks broken to me. Like we started this game in a
Everybody's
zone.
doing something different.
That feels true. That looks
Like
true sometimes.
you've got like Hughes and Thames, and I'm gonna single these two out because like I watch them play defense and they are just aggressive in the most inopportune ways and times. Like I see them like waving their hand. They get down to the defensive stance, waving their hands. Or like, what do you do? Just like I don't know what's going on. Like, what are we trying to do? Because we're not getting steals.
Yeah, right. That's for sure. This is not an aggressive defense, but we started this game in a zone, Zach, and really only stuck with it that first possession, right? Like they went
They
back to it a couple
switched
times later.
back. When did they went back to it? And this is something I really want to get into with Travis Ford because I swear to God, this team cannot switch defenses mid possession. You have nobody on this team that communicates well enough to switch defenses mid possession. Yet Travis Ford did it. And you know what? I believe Utah State scored. And what did we like? I mean, what was the score? Like at some point we could have been at that point we could have been down one at the end of the game instead of three
I don't. Yeah, I really don't
to
understand the
send somebody to the
switching
line.
back and forth. Like, and the possession in the beginning of the game was just as confusing to me. It's like, okay, we show zone and then ditch it for the rest of the first half. It was like, well, what was that? What was the point of that? Are we trying to throw them off? I mean, I don't. I didn't get it at all. It seemed like a weird gimmick play in football that didn't exactly work, but also didn't destroy them or anything like that. They just kind of ditched it. But for the most part, Zach, this defense to me at times kind of looked like the Pack defense under Soderberg.
Interesting.
Except because we would have like an inner arc of like five guys, and Utah State's just throwing it around the perimeter. And then once they're ready to shoot or put it on the floor, we just don't have the closeouts. Like the Pack defense only works with hard closeouts, and we just didn't have that. The effort, the energy, the attention is just not there. I didn't even know what we were running. It just looked like to me not even really a Pack defense. It's more of like a rec league defense of like,
Yeah.
five guys my age just kind of standing inside the arc a little bit, hoping that their assignment isn't the one who gets the ball.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about because you talk about the defense and Travis has been I feel like he's been talking about effort on defense and I feel like he just continues to blame the players and you look at this article that was written basically that he's tired of excuses about size and rebounding and it's so ridiculous to me because you look at a guy like Goodwin because he makes the comparison to an NBA rotation player. These guys on this team, like Dalger, he's comparing to an NBA rotation player. Thames, like what are you talking about? Goodwin had Hassan French, DJ Foreman, Rashad Anthony. I mean, we can go on and on about the guys that he had around him to help him defend or to help him rebound. Like the guards on this team have Bruce Zhang and Steph Van Bussel for 15 minutes a game.
Goodwin was also one of the most unique players in college basketball while he was playing, because there was no other guard that rebounded like him, period. The way he hunted down offensive rebounds, it's rare that you watch a guy off the ball go chase. Like, I'm not even watching the guy shoot after a while on SLU, right? I'm watching what Goodwin's doing, how he's going to go get this offensive board. And he was just such a fun player to watch for that reason. There's nobody on this team who plays remotely like him. And I guess he's a recent player, and you want to be able to show your guys, look, here's a guy who went undrafted and now he's a rotation player on a very good NBA team. And I guess you just want to have that example, right? Like, this is what happens when you put in the work, when you put in the effort, when you put in the, and that's a fair, valuable lesson that I don't mind a coach using at all. The problem is Ford says he's tired of excuses, but he's projecting that on he's saying that to his players.
It's excuseception. He is making it. He's making an excuse. The excuse is that his players are not doing enough.
Right.
But he's tired of the excuses.
He's tired of their excuses, and the fans are tired of his. It's kind of the frustrating dynamic there.
Crazy.
Because like, we don't hear the players making excuses, right? Like, we're not in practice, we're not in meetings, we're not in games day to day with this team. We don't hear their excuses. We hear what he says to the media, and we're waiting for some form of accountability that hasn't come yet. And I think that's where that disconnect is, right? I mean, like, I don't know what excuses the players are making, and I guess he's like, well, we can't make excuses. We just have to play our best. But like, man, I don't see that.
I wouldn't call Goodwin. It's not all about physically strong you are. I wouldn't call Goodwin the most athletic guy. He didn't go above to get rebounds and wasn't an excuse maker. No, but he learned. He taught. I don't know who taught him how to rebound, but somebody had to teach him how to rebound. You don't just. I mean, sure, could he have reversed engineered it himself? Yeah, he could have, but likely not. I mean, look, we're not crashing the boards on offense. So Ford, get that out of your mind. That is your strategy. That's your call. If we're not crashing the offensive boards, that's on you. And if they aren't crashing the boards, then, and you're requesting that of them, then you've lost them. Then they're not listening to you at all. And I definitely want to get into that issue in the next game, but it's like, again, you have Goodwin had guys around him that could help him rebound. Goodwin was a master at reading the way the ball was going to come off the rim. That literally, we had that conversation. Who did we have that conversation with? Like that's something that that's been said, that he would do actually work on that, reading the ball off the rim.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't remember, not something I was prepared to talk about.
Yeah. Why don't you have notes on every episode?
But what I do know is, like, if that's what you want, why don't you play them film of what he did and then work on that with them and teach them that? And
that's what I'm saying.
Find some other ways to get offensive rebounds if that's what you're going for, because here you have Utah State just doing whatever they want in the paint, right? 52 points in the paint, 52 points in the paint, Zach, 12 offensive rebounds. They out rebound SLU by 10. So like, we just had no chance rebounding against this team. And if you're not happy about it, work on this with them. Like, because your
big men more minutes.
Your fifth year players, who they are by this point. Hargrove's doing all he can. Jimerson's doing all he can. You know who Meadows is. He's new to the team, but like, obviously not a rebounder. You got to be working on this with your younger guys, your big guys. Bruce, for as intriguing as he is, has not been a rebounder at all so far. Steph had
I did enjoy him and Steph. I thought him and Steph were a bright spot
in
in
the Utah
the
State game.
besides Jimerson and Meadows, Steph and Bruce, I thought played within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They set good screens, legal screens. Steph Van Bussel was a pest. I want to see him. I every time SVB is on the court, I want to see him beat the living shit out of someone.
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
Don't be afraid of fouls.
get out there and don't throw your elbows around. But like I said earlier, watching him go one-on-one with Isaac Johnson impressed the hell out of me. It was it because and you watched it. I watched him take on Johnson, and they were just two dudes smacking the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched him on Asabor, and Asabor was just like, what the hell? I don't want any. Are you seeing this? Like, that's what I want. Like if Asabor is looking at the ref for a foul, like he's not paying attention.
Yeah.
You've won the little battle. So I really liked both of them in this game. I don't know about you.
Yeah, look, I thought they were fine. Their minutes were limited.
Which sucks.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Their freshman four doesn't like freshman bigs unless they're already good, like a French or a Gordon. So those are pretty much the only two instant impact freshman bigs we've ever had.
What does it matter?
Sure. Yeah, I know. Well, look, Asabor, we knew he was a problem.
Yeah.
I told you what he averaged so far. He was above those averages this game, 24 and 13. Isaac Johnson, I do wonder if Steph saw some kind of the traditional Euro in that guy, right? Like being a tall, skinny guy who stretched it out to the perimeter. And one of the things that we knew about Steph coming in to this season, like when we first got him, was on film, you could see how big he was and how physical he was. I don't think he's afraid of that. He's a little more conventional as a center, and not necessarily that Euro style. But Zach, I mean, I'm just like, my bottom line with this game, I'm really impressed, number one, with the roster that Utah State's coach Danny Sprinkle put together in such a short amount of time. This is his first season there. He's got a great mix of size, athleticism. He's got skill and experience. He brought two guys from Montana State who happen to be his two best players, and they're kind of like, how did you get those guys to Bozeman? That's incredible. He's got guys from Maryland, Oregon, Wyoming, Idaho, Coastal Carolina, and then, a couple high school and JUCO guys. All of these guys have not played together with the exception of those two Montana State players. And it's their first season together. They've only been playing a few months. They've met each other a few months ago. Like, when you think about it, they move the ball well. They're aggressive. They're organized on defense. They got production and transition. Except for the last few minutes, I was like, these guys, they look like a bunch of seniors who have been playing together for years. And then on the other side of the court, you have an 8th-year coach with some 5th-year players, with some grad transfers, with some guys he recruited. And we're completely disorganized, overmatched, overwhelmed, gave up size at most positions. It was just like, what's happening here? How do they look that good already? I mean, kudos to Utah State. He looks like a home run higher in the early going. I mean, I was really impressed.
Bring him here. Screw it. Just switch.
Yeah, Zach, I think the last note on this game, or at least from my standpoint, unless you got anything else, it seems like some of our gambling buddies got a bad beat on this one. You're just shaking your head, but I think this was 6.5 point spread.
I learned this under Jim Cruz. You do not bet Billiken games.
Everybody who took Utah State with that spread on this one felt like a genius until about 3 minutes left to play, and then they got really nervous really fast.
I think I said at halftime, I wish I would have bet my savings on Utah State. I think at halftime I said that.
Well, this is why I don't gamble a dime on sports. I'll throw in $10 to like an office tournament pool or something like that, but that's about it.
I'll bet a Super Bowl prop or two every year, but that is Although then in the group chat, what I was talking about, just wetting the beak next
Yeah.
week or Wednesday night, depending on
I,
the
I
line.
every time you get tempted though, something like this happens, right? Like everybody heading into
We'll
this
go
Utah
to
State game
Iowa. We'll go to Iowa and win.
there will be some bizarre miracle and
The
they'll beat
scoreboard
the
will
spread.
collapse.
Yes. Yeah, who knows?
Uh,
Like Drake's team will all get food poisoning on Tuesday night.
dude, did you have to bring up the food poisoning? Did
I
you have
figured
to?
you would be able to relate to
I
that
can I
possibility.
can relate to it, and I'm gonna need to step away to go to the restroom. Yeah, I think yeah, that's the second worst bad beat since Xavier Johnson against us last year or 2 years ago with George Mason or whatever. Wasn't
I
it
don't.
there was the one that Michael Gaines made ESPN.
Oh, I can't remember what
Because
the
he was yelling no threes, no threes. And
and
then the
somebody.
dude hit a three right in his eye. And it made ESPN bad beats.
Look, I mean,
Thoughts and prayers, Michael Gaines.
yeah, and everybody else who does it, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
No gambling.
Ball State against with Jim Cruz. I bet the Billikens to win, and it was not close.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I think people know that I thought about going to this game.
Yeah, you texted me, should I go to this game? And I don't remember. I guess I was doing like yard work or something at the
Thank
time and I
God you
didn't
were
see it.
busy.
It was in my pocket. And I think by the time I texted back, it was like 2 hours to tip.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sorry, I missed this. I was like, yeah, go, just go. And you were like, nah, it's too late now. And I was like, yeah, who cares? Just go anyway. It doesn't matter.
It would have
I'm
mattered.
glad. I would have felt awful if you did take my advice and go to this game, Zach.
I just
On
I started getting focused. Speaking of people that went to this game, by the way,
Yeah,
if you went to this game, my goodness, you saw the opposite of the Larry Hughes SIU game. Um, but I kept trying to keep an eye on when the camera would pan to SLU fans.
it really didn't much, did it?
No. No, I think there were just some SLU fans in the very like front that you would get.
They kept talking about how good the crowd was and how happy the crowd would be with this performance. I didn't get the sense that there was much blue in the arena, even though it
No.
was 2 hours away. And I think you tweeted out a couple days before this one that they canceled, or a day before this one that they canceled the bus, the
Yeah, the
alumni
alumni bus.
booster bus that normally goes to this
Thank
game.
God, because our alumni we might have lost a few alumni.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like rest in peace. We might have had some
this
people.
was, yeah, I mean, or people would have just I mean
I
taken
want to
off their
know,
Billiken blue
was
on the
there
spot.
any like because we've heard stories of that Butler game under Cruz where Chris May snapped back at
In
fans
Oh, okay. Yeah, like
in the Cruz era at the end.
yeah, at Hinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
I
the,
vaguely remember that. Yeah.
and so I was curious if anybody did have eyes on any athletic department staffers.
Let us know. I'm
Yeah.
genuinely curious. We should probably just like set the table here, Zach. Saturday, December 2nd in the
Yeah.
afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon, I think is when this one went off, Central Time. 101-62 loss. We thought it was 60, but we got 2 points after the fact. Tim Gallagher. Yeah, way to go.
Hey, hold on. What I want to know when the 2 points were because like it was early in the game. I don't know. Could have mattered. No.
I actually what was the play, by the way, that you do you remember? Okay. I just saw like, oh, Gallagher got an extra two, and it was like, I'm starting to wonder, like with the new goaltending rule, like after the fact, and now we had points. Is there going to be a game decided someday by
yes,
them going?
at the end.
Yeah, like everybody's celebrating a win, and then the refs are like, hang on a minute, we found something. Like
Yeah.
that kind of, obviously it was not a factor
Wait,
in this
they
one.
did they call a goaltend in this one?
Who cares?
But it
I
wouldn't
don't
have
even
mattered.
know.
They wouldn't have added 2 points.
No.
It would have been the only way it would have changed is if it was taken away. So like you could
Right.
conceivably
Yes.
win. You could conceivably the game could be tied. Let's say they call a goaltend. The game is tied. They give the like okay, they call a goaltend with 10 seconds left. The game is tied, and then the team comes down, misses a shot at the buzzer to win the game. And then after the buzzer sounds, they go
They
back
review
and
the
look
goaltend.
the goaltend, and then it's taken away, and then the team that just missed the shot wins. Huh,
I get
I mean that's the scenario, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
it doesn't
Um,
matter because you, instead of by 41, we lost by 39.
Correct. So I mean, that makes everything better.
If it were a 40-point spread, then that
Yeah.
would have been that would have been where the action would be. But Zach, where do we start on this one? I mean, this was
I
as
know
bad as it gets.
I know exactly where we start, Pete, and I mentioned it earlier. This team quit on Travis Ford.
Could you see that in the game, or does it seem like it happened before the game?
Ah, Dude, that's the thing. So what the question like it's where, when, why? Um why I genuinely I think it feels to me that Travis has just become a different coach. And I don't know if that's a matter of, losing those guys that really bought in pre-COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the Goodwins, the Frenches, the Isabels, these guys that, that honeymoon phase of this
Mm-hmm.
SLU Travis relationship. And somewhere along the line, he just seems to have become more, I don't know, less of a player's coach, more of kind of that old, crotchety drill sergeant. Like he's so like he's yelling at freaking Bruce Zhang. Like, what are you
Yeah.
yelling at your freshman big for? You brought him in. You get on the mic after games and you talk about how Steph Van Bussel had a rod in his leg. You talk about Bruce Zhang, how he didn't practice for whatever. Like, what are you yelling at him for? Like,
Right.
stop. Like, it's just this attitude where on the sideline he just goes nuts. Like, it was cute. It was cute when you were winning.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, but I just don't like what. So did they quit? I don't know. Did they? He seemed on the post game to think the way he talked about it. I mean, he said it more or less like we caved after Meadows went down.
Mm.
So whether or not that is when they quit or whether it was, something he said in the huddle, whether it was, I don't know if it was before the game. I don't. But it's just and again I don't know if it's whether or not it's the demands of Travis, whether it's the way he talks to the players, the way he kind of runs the team, um or if it's just a lack of faith in the game plan. I don't know what's your take on it. What did you see?
Well, I'm looking at when Meadows would have come out the last time, and it was right around, he played 6 minutes, but he came out at with 10:08 left in the half. And by this point, SLU was down 23-10. So I have a hard time believing that was the moment, right? Because
Yeah.
things were already not going well. This is basically one quarter into the game.
Yeah.
And I know at this point, 23-10, I was already thinking like, the crowd sounded great, by the way. Like Carbondale's crowd was into it from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And like the team seemed to be feeding off that energy. It was clearly a symbiotic thing the Salukis had going, man. I mean, like they were really playing a high energy, high effort game. that I did not see from SLU from the start. So I think by 10 minutes into this game, I kind of knew which way it was going. Like, yeah, maybe at some point we could go on a run and even this out and like get them on their heels kind of thing. But like, we were not matching their energy at all at this point in the game. So
there was the 3 turnovers in a row.
Yeah.
The Dogger,
Right.
Meadows, Hargrove.
So I have a hard time saying it was Meadows. Look, Meadows, to be clear, went down hard in this game. He landed on his back. He had already had a back injury from a couple weeks ago that he was playing through. I don't know if he was back to 100% yet or not before this game, but like he came down awkwardly and he wrecked his back, man. It looked really bad. He went to a hospital. It looked horrible. I feel truly bad for him. I have nothing bad to say about him or whatever in this game. He played 6 minutes and got hurt. That happens, but I don't buy that was the turning point. I mean, it feels like they just did not come out ready to play in this game at all. I saw no evidence of a team prepared for a game
Yeah,
at
no,
all.
I just don't think they like it was like it's just like I think what did I say at the beginning of the game? Why is uh Hughes Jr. not moving? Well,
Yeah.
I think 2 possessions in a row he went to the corner and
Right.
didn't move.
Right.
Is he
Yeah.
like again? But we can get into it eventually. But I mean, he didn't play in the second half at all. He didn't come out of the locker room, I guess. But like, I don't know what is causing these guys like what about, because I know they're quitting on Travis Ford. I do. I'm confident in saying that. And not that they just are quitting on each other. Like, I don't think this is this feels like a straight mutiny.
It sure looks like it because there's nothing that I saw visually that showed like and I want to back up a little bit because coming into the season and early on in the season, Zach, like I said, I'm ready to sit back and without expectations enjoy the ride and watch these guys. And in the exhibition games and in the first few games of the season, we saw a ton of effort, a ton of energy. And I was like, they're going to lose some games, but I like how hard these guys play. And we're missing guys in the front court, and that's frustrating. And, might have, and we were kind of dinged up in a couple of those games, but I was like, the truth is they're playing hard. And now that you've removed that element, they're not playing hard at all. There's no effort. There's no cohesiveness whatsoever. This has become unwatchable. This game was about the worst I've ever seen. Like
Yeah.
I was there through that 9-21 season. That was my senior year, and I watched courtside every game. Man, that was bad. That was horrible. And I'm seeing that again. The cruise, those 2 cruise seasons where it tanked, where we won 11 games each year. This to me reminded me of that Duquesne game at Duquesne, the one that gave us that infamous gif of the jolly shot that went off the foam on the side of the backboard. Like this is what this just feels like. This is the low ebb, the rock bottom of this era, and we're back there again. And it's unbelievable because we're coming off a season that was devastating because we had such high expectations and did not meet them. But we always thought under Ford, yeah, we may question what our ceiling is, but like we knew our floor had been raised, right? Like we just were comfortable with the idea that there was some baseline above average sort of operating level that this team would be at. And here you have a 101 point performance that we gave up in Carbondale, the first time we've allowed 100 since 1992 when we won 5 games in Grauer's final season. The most 3-pointers we've ever allowed, 18. They shot 66% against us. This was like awful. It was awful. And I think back to like those Soderbergh years when we would lose and score like 38 because it was just this slow defensive style. But like the other team was scoring like 52, right? Like that though that was there were games like that where I was just like, this is ugly and unwatchable. But it's really hard to watch a team just come down and hit what 8 threes in a row against us. And I think maybe they didn't hit one, but one was a 3-point play. Like a guy got fouled at the rim and then hit the free throw. It was just three, 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 three every possession in the second half. And it was for a while. I just kind of stopped watching the game. I just had it on and I was just looking at Twitter. I was just looking at the things people were saying on Billikens.com because of how out of hand it was getting. And this is, if Zach, I mean, this was bad. I can't. There's not enough superlatives I can use for how hard this game was to
I
watch.
think I think people get really into calling things debacles, unmitigated disasters,
Yeah,
um, embarrassing. All of those descriptors are fully applicable in this one. And I think, to circle back on, this team quitting, and I think there's many things. I think the substitution pattern is something that has to be looked at, is something that is just completely baffling. Um, how do you, it's how you have to trust your players for them to trust you. And you don't, I just feel like you don't get that trust by a turnover at 7:16 from Tim Dalger, a turnover at 16:57 by Mike Meadows, and then you sub them out at 16:36
yeah,
immediately. I don't. I want to get to this other substitution, which is preposterous. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen. Wait, I don't. What am I? What the hell? Um, what is it? Kellen Thames plays a minute 35, a minute 25 in the second half to start the second half. He
and
starts the
then
second
gets
half and
yanked.
plays a minute 25 and gets subbed out for him, and Terrence Hargrove gets subbed out. Why?
Yeah, well,
He had a guy sitting at the table before, like, 30 seconds into the second half.
well, I mean, the way that half started, right? Like they hit a two, Hargrove turns it over, and then Thames fouls the dude.
Yeah.
They hit a three,
Yeah.
slew Dalger gets one back, and then they hit another three. So our lead, our deficit, which was I think 41-27 at halftime,
Yeah.
now is 50-29. So yeah, so there go Thames and Hargrove, but like I don't I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
I
don't.
mean, yeah, it was a bad start to the half, but
True.
were those the right substitutions to make? I don't know. I don't know.
Huh. I
Doesn't
just,
feel like it. Like those are two of the guys who I actually saw some effort from at times in this game.
here's the thing. Like, I don't understand substitution as punishment. Um, and I also, like, if you're gonna sub a guy out as a punishment, I think you damn well better sit down and talk to him. Like,
Yeah.
you better have, either you or your assistant better be having a deep conversation with that player.
Yeah, I
Like,
think that's
that's
right.
when you coach.
You said before, why are you screaming at Steph? Why are you screaming at Bruce? I think the substitutions even like hurt even more because
Yeah.
like they're petrified to make a mistake because they're going to get yanked. Then they get yanked and they get reamed out on the way to the bench. And it's like, what does that do for an 18, 19-year-old big confidence when like those guys are going to take years to develop? Assuming you want to keep them in this program and develop them, that's going to take a long time. And every time they make a bad shot choice or commit a foul or turn it over or whatever, and you just pull them after 1 or 2 minutes of play, how's that helping develop that guy? Like you're just putting him further and further off track for progression. So yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. The substitution patterns have just, yeah, they just leave you scratching your head. But
It's he and to go at these dudes that are playing for you, whom you've put in the position they're in. Like, it's not as though you have a team full of dudes. Like you don't have a center. You've got Hargrove playing center, and then you have a verbal altercation with him in a timeout. Like the
Right.
one dude that you're asking to do
Yeah.
so much more than
Yeah.
he's ever been asked to do on a basketball court, short of leading his team to state in high school. Like
Hmm.
that's the last time he was maybe asked to come out of his positional comfort zone was high school.
Well, and in high school, he played for what five different coaches in 4 seasons, and was asked to do everything, and wound up, yeah, leading them to a state championship. And now here he is in his fifth year at SLU, and he's playing completely out of position, being like Hargrove at every. You got to hand it to the guy. He has
Yes.
stepped up and met his assignment. And you're right, he's not the one worthy of being, chewed out or whatever. You like he's also like I think a Jimerson, a Hargrove, these veterans have earned a position to where like that's that's not necessarily how you communicate with a guy who is that experienced. And this is something I saw up close, right? Like you don't necessarily. Romar was a master at this, like knowing how to communicate with different guys differently to get the most out of them,
Mm-hmm.
and like really understanding their personalities and their strengths and weaknesses, and how to play to that. But I could tell you from the season I just brought up that was so bad, when your season's not going well and you start chewing out a senior or the fifth year senior or grad transfer or whatever it may be in our case right now, you can lose those guys like that, and your season is now essentially over, because like they're going to check out, they're going to start thinking about the things that they're doing next in life, whether that be in or out of basketball, and they're just going to play out the season at minimal effort, because they're not going to believe in you or what you're doing, and you can lose them so fast as a coach, and it really feels like that has happened already.
And you wonder if you push it back to last year even. I mean, look at how senior laden that squad was, and I mean, there are rumblings that the discontent started in Europe, you know, and it goes along with the way that Ford, I think, has kind of changed. And you look at the relationship he had with, again, you look at the relationship he had with those guys on those teams that won, and he was much. I thought, I mean, I seem to recall, maybe it's rose colored glasses, blue tinted glasses, whatever you want to call it. But it seemed like he was softer on them in the moment in games. And you I wonder if that has changed, in the last couple of years, and it negatively affected that team last year, and it has negatively affected. I mean, I saw moments where in the game against Utah State where Ford was yelling at Jimerson, and Jimerson's like, what? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, what did I do wrong? He was just confused by it. And I don't know where to like, I don't know what, something's got to change immediately.
Yeah, but
Um,
Yeah, but I don't know what it is, because it's not just the communication. The Jimerson example there is, I think, a really good illustration. Like there, it's not just the tone of communication, but something clearly is not getting through, because they are so disorganized when I watch them play. And that it really, you could see it in their defense. One of the things that was kind of funny coming into this game is when you just look at a sheet of paper, like a stat sheet or whatever the announcers had coming into this game, on paper, SLU's 3-point defense hasn't been that bad. But that one of the texts I got, my buddy Mike texted me, and he quoted them saying, tell me you haven't watched SLU play this season without telling me you haven't watched SLU play this season, right? Because like, yes, on paper, our 3-point defense percentage is not bad, but you have to look across at who we're playing against. One lower division school, two of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country, and then three teams that shoot under 32% from the perimeter. You kind of set aside Wyoming and Vermont, who shot well. I think Wyoming 40%, Vermont like 46%. They torched us. But like, it's hilarious to think that we play a good 3-point defense because it's mostly been daring bad teams to shoot on us, right? And when we run into good 3-point shooting teams, they don't miss. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Like anyone trying to seize on that narrative this season can't do it anymore. SIUC, Zach, absolutely torched SLU from three. 18 for 29 from behind the arc, 12 for 17 in the second half. And the most surprising thing to me about those numbers is how much worse it felt watching the game, right? Like 18 for 29, that's 54 points from beyond the arc. And we kind of laughed at the previous game, 52 points in the paint is what Utah State had. They're not a great
An
three-point shooting team.
an overcorrection, if I've ever heard of one.
So it's like pick your poison. One game in a week we let up over 50 inside the paint. The next game we let up 54 from outside the perimeter. And man, yeah, when they score 101, it felt worse. If you had told me they made 23s, I would have said that sounds about right.
Yeah. It was shot after shot after shot. And I got to tell you, this game would have been as bad as it was. And it was about the same as watching the Hindenburg. It, I am so glad I turned off the sound.
Yeah. And that's, I didn't turn off the sound. I kept it on.
You're a wild man, Hale.
But like I told you, I still, well, I needed it, right? Because I was looking at the screen so much less than I normally do. Because I was just watching the narrative unfold on Twitter and
it was amazing. It was legitimately like it was. It might have been. It was definitely more entertaining than the game.
Oh, people were losing their minds. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. But like this, but again, this is why SLU has kind of gotten away with a weak 3-point defense in 6 of those first 8 games because of the competition, right? I mean, like SIUC, they shoot a lot of threes. We said that in our scout coming into the game. They fire away, man. They take a lot of threes. They make over 36% of them coming into the game. Now it's like 96. And then if you leave them open, this is what happens, right? Like if SLU doesn't figure out a perimeter defense, it's going to be like last season in the A10, where every team that we played in conference outperformed their season average against us. That I remember saying that how many times last year, again and again and again, teams outshot what you would expect them to. Figure it out. Like there's something not happening on the perimeter, whether that's weak closeouts, guys missing assignments, not switching I'm grasping here because like it looks so completely broken that I don't even know where to begin.
You begin with a change at the top.
Well, before we get into that, let's just like kind of close out this game, Zach, because
we're gonna close out this game much better than any Billiken closed out on a 3-point shooter in said game.
Yeah, we sure will, because like all of their 3-point attempts came from 5 guys. All of them made at least 3.
Overrated,
Xavier Johnson,
by the way, 5 guys.
See, I would say that about Chick-fil-A, but I haven't had 5 guys in like
fair
8
play.
years.
Fair play. All right.
So Xavier Johnson, we know him. He's a transfer from George Mason. He had 31. He went 6 of 8 from 3. Last year, his season high of 23 came against SLU. And previously, he really was only averaging like 7 points a game at George Mason, and then last year at SIUC, his 7 or 8 points a game is what you would get. So yeah, season high last year and now this year, 31, could not miss. 3 guys on their roster, Zach: Troy D'Amico, Kennard Davis, and Clarence Rupert. All 3 guys SLU offered. D'Amico comes out and has a career high 20 points on 8 of 11 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3. He has 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks, a steal. Davis, 11 points. He's a guy who scores 3.5 points a game. He's a freshman from Vashon. For a while, it kind of looked like he was going to come to SLU, by the way. But I think we let off the gas with his recruitment. He went to Carbondale and was more than happy to
the anti-Kyle Cassidy.
Well, I mean, we've seen this pattern play out again and again. SLU either doesn't offer or doesn't pull the trigger on a guy locally who goes to a valley school and comes back to haunt us.
Yeah.
And yet another chapter in that book right here.
Of a
Davis has
large
11,
one.
4 of 6 from the field, 3 of 5 from three, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And then Rupert made our bigs look foolish. He goes 6 for 6 for 14 points, 2 free throws, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. These guys all looked great. And they were the 3 guys that I was kind of watching out for, right? I was like, okay, here are guys that we recruited in some way, shape, or form. Let's see what these 3 look like tonight. And they all looked great. And they didn't even include the guy who, just went off on us. I can't say, look, enough good things about how Carbondale played. They rose to the occasion. I know that they kind of see this as a rivalry game. We're 2 hours apart. We don't play every single year, but we play each other most years, kind of keep switching back home and home. And they've been a worthy opponent, man. And that pains me to say, because that's not the program that I want to be compared to, right? I have higher aspirations. But right now that's not even on the table.
And you have to wonder, what are the aspirations?
Yeah. Yeah. What about SLU, Zach? Is that any bright points?
No. No.
Well, Thames had a double-double.
I like Thames.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jimerson, I mean, like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Like, I mean, what they all quit, right?
I mean, I don't know. Collectively, it looks like that. Individually, I can't say what any single guy's motivations are or whatever. I do wonder in this one.
I'm not coming down on any of these guys for quitting, because I'm a notorious quitter. Um, I, I I have no like qualms with any of them. I've watched enough of what I think is supposed to be the idea on offense and defense to know that like it doesn't work. And if I've seen enough, they've seen enough.
Right.
I think it's just wild to see guys like, and I don't want to throw people like there are assistants that look despondent. They don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. The vibes are bad. The body language is bad. Everything visually just does not look right. Jimerson has 1 3-point attempt in this game, Zach. How does that happen? We're
that's what
playing
I'm
from a
saying.
deficit and our 3-point shooter can't get more than 1 look. What is
again,
that?
Like again, if you want to say Jimerson, isn't trying hard enough, that's fine. But when you consistently do not get him open, like, do you really expect him to continue to try? Like, at what point are you just running him around to burn calories?
Well, he's certainly
I mean, you
he's in
can do
great
that
shape.
at the YMCA.
Yeah. 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 And then your big energy guy, Hargrove has 9 and 8 in this
Thank
one.
God he didn't flex on that dunk.
I know I was kind of waiting for it too. I was like, oh, please don't, please don't, please don't. Cause like the students and fans there are just going to mercilessly rip you for that. I mean, as SLU fans should have in that case. And then Dalger has 18 points, what was originally 16. But it's only on 6 of 14 shooting and everything, generally he's just trying to shoot inside. He goes 0 for 4 from 3, 6 of 11 from the line.
He did a lot of guard post play.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was just his characteristic kind of frustrating, inefficient self. I don't know. I have a tough time watching him, Zach, and the shot selection is poor. And sometimes what looks like effort is just like, why are you trying to take it 1-on-3 from under the basket? I don't know. I don't always get what he's doing.
I tried to watch him, and I think many people have said, he's kind of got that Emily Gabian early season. not looking to pass, one track mind. And yeah, he doesn't. I kind of tried to keep an eye on that, and dude does not have any interest in anybody else in white yesterday.
No, if he's especially if he has the ball inside about 8 feet, like it could be 1-on-5 and he's gonna shoot
He's
that.
the guard Francis Okoro.
That's right. Yeah. Okoro could not pass. But yeah, he can't either, and he should be able to do that because yeah, he's a wing. He's a 6'6" wing. He's got to have a more complete skill set there. And he's a veteran too. Like he just oh boy, he just doesn't look the part of kind of what we want there. Just a really tough, frustrating player to watch sometimes. We talked about Meadows. We talked about his
Yeah.
back injury. It looked really bad. Hughes didn't come out of the locker room. I haven't heard an update on either of their statuses yet, unless you've heard anything
I
different.
haven't, but speaking of Hughes, there were a lot of receipts yesterday being brought up. One of them, I mean, I think I brought up the Frank Cusimano segment about NIL versus Travis buyout, but
Yes.
then a couple people brought up the Larry Hughes tweet
Oh
about
yeah, from back in April.
the over dramatic SLU fans or whatever it was.
Right.
Um,
Because we weren't happy after last year, and he was
yeah,
basically like, "Calm down."
and yeah, I
Yeah.
want to know if anybody had eyes on Chris May, Larry Hughes, any of the athletic staffs. Drop it in the chat if you
I know if I were there, I would have been watching them after a
oh
while
yes.
and not this game because there was nothing on the floor worth watching. That's for sure. Yeah, that's what I would want to see. So, by the way, Zach, we turned it over 19 times in this game just to kind of like add to all of the other
They
disastrous elements of this game.
Do you remember the first women's game this year where you watched like
Is that Drake?
yeah, where they like just kept turning it over. Like and the turnovers just looked like they were high schoolers playing against college players. That's what
Right.
would that was this game.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like it was like I think and I don't want to throw Churchich under the bus, but he was kind of one of them. Like well no, I don't want to say that. Like the most apparent one was Churchich just kind of like just had the ball and it was kind of just gone. It was like in the sixth man when the ghost steals the ball.
But this is also the point,
He
Zach,
didn't even know
where
they were there.
you talk about they looked like high school against college. Carbondale was picked to finish ninth in the Valley, right? Like we beat Illinois
They're
State.
definitely a tournament team, Pete.
We beat Illinois State, who was picked to finish eighth in the Valley, and they didn't look good, right? Like Carbondale was not like maybe they're a little bit better than people thought. Maybe they're outperforming expectations, but like it's not like we're facing a team that is just like a world killer out there, right? Like this was supposed to be a pretty average to below average team, and we made them look like like a
The
Final
Golden
Four
State
team.
Warriors.
Just unbelievable. My wife walks in, Zach. She was doing yard work, and it was starting to get a little too cold or dark or whatever out there. So there's just under 7 minutes to play, and SLU's down 84-47. And she walks up, looks at the score, and then looks at me, and her face was hilarious. I've never seen it like that before. She was just like could not believe what was going on. And she was just like, "What is happening? What is this?" And I was just smiling. I was like, "I got nothing for you. I don't know what to say." Like it's been so many years since I have watched this team, and it's been like that. I mean, it's been what, 8 years now since like the last cruise year.
Yeah.
That's the last time where I watched a game and just felt like this, just absolute hopelessness for the team, for the season. It was crazy. And Zach, I brought this up already, but in 2004 when we played at Carbondale, Soderberg didn't want to stay in Carbondale. You know, it's only 2 hours away, so we take the bus back and forth from SLU that day. Right, we're not gonna stay overnight either before or after the game. It was I want to say a mid late. It was like a late afternoon game or something like that. And so just as we're pulling into Carbondale, not the town, right? So we're still 5 or 10 minutes from campus. The bus driver gets pulled over, and it takes like 20 minutes, and finally he gets like a speeding ticket. Soderbergh is seething. You can see the steam coming off his bald head from behind. Like he was so mad because now his idea of like we get in, we get out. Now our whole schedule is thrown off. We're going to be 20 minutes late for shoot around and stuff like that. And of course, like I'm not going to say that that's why this happened, but we did not show up to play that day. It was terrible. We got wiped. It was 67-41 was the final score. Again, 41 in a losing effort back then, just to give you an idea of what the style was like. We go on to win just 9 games that season. And early in this game, it was middle of the first half at some point, I text my buddy Joe, who was a manager with me at the time, and I was like, this really feels a lot like that Carbondale game, doesn't, from our senior year. It feels a lot like that. And he was like, oh my God, yeah, this really does. And then it winds up being worse than that, Zach. Like that, I remember thinking in that game, like that's it, like the season's over. Like I could see it in the coaches, I could see it in the players, the seniors cashed out, like they checked out. I mean, I saw it happening in that. That was the one where like we had already been off to a bad start that season, laid an egg down in the Virgin Islands, terrible start, lost to teams we should never lose to. But it was that game where I really thought like, okay, this season's done. Like it's not going to turn around. And got that feeling again here. It really, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly echoes.
I just want to take a moment to thank every one of my friends who would normally text me about a poor Billiken performance. And I just want to thank you all for sparing me, except for one. You know who you are. I know you listen to this show. Thank you for that. And it wasn't bad. It was just like the text was just, he has to be gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
see, these are the games that I tend to get texts in, right? Like if SLU wins this game by 18, nobody texts me anything. But when we're down by 40 in the second half, it's like, whoa, what's going on over there? The only reason I didn't get more texts on this one, because a lot of the people who normally would say something to me are Kentucky fans. And at the same time this game was going on, they were losing at home to UNC Wilmington. So and they wound up losing that game.
yeah.
So luckily I was spared by some of the other results that were happening at the same time.
I don't, and I think it's something to be said about people are just, people just don't care enough to bother you about, like, they don't care about the Billikens right now enough.
No, that's certainly part
bad.
of the issue. That's part of the issue.
I don't care.
It's being beaten out of me. I will tell you that much. Like I'm
like,
tired.
Yeah. I'm, it's so funny because you've got like a couple people on Twitter that have kind of been in like mentions and replies and kind of like, I don't know, poking the bear, I guess, on this, and like you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
None of us give a shit.
What are you going to say to me that I already haven't said to myself? Like you can't.
We are the
can't hurt me.
epitome of like the self-deprecating, the child that just learns how to make fun of themselves so they can't be made fun of first. Like
Yeah.
we are the bullied child that learns how to the defense mechanism of just point out your pick onable features so that nobody else can make fun of them.
Right. Defang your bullies. You know, Zach, one of the funny things in this one, the broadcast of this game, I gotta say, these broadcasters.
I do want to get into that. Did you see the Hargrove Ford exchange?
I didn't. No. I mean, again, I wasn't, my eyes were not on the screen for this one.
It wasn't super like intense, but it was noticeable.
It was enough to make you go, whoa.
Yeah, that was that. Like, why are you like? And again, I don't blame Hargrove at all. I would have fired back. I would have fired back 2 years ago.
Well, I think now the difference is you have players who are going to feel like they've got nothing to lose,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
look, we've got guys who aren't eligible, guys who
Freaking
are hurt.
Ezewero. You gotta be shitting me, right? Like Ezewero's just gotta be just done.
He's right now got the worst of both worlds because I assume his appeal is still being heard and he's waiting to hear on that whether he's going to be eligible or not. In the meantime, now you've played 9 games and the wheels have come off, right? So if he becomes eligible, like it would be the most slew thing ever, by the way. If we were 9-0 right now, no way he'd be eligible. But now that this season is like going off the rails, they'll go, okay, like the
Yeah, you
NCAA
guys,
was,
you guys need to
go
put
ahead.
it.
Here's your 2-time waiver.
Magasa's cleared. I still think Magasa will be cleared January 1st. I'm gonna go on record. No, I'm
I
gonna go
thought he
on
was going to be
record.
cleared weeks ago, so I have no
Yeah.
idea. But
I,
yeah,
at
so
this
so
point, you get to a point where you're like, okay, there are benchmarks of the season, right?
mhm.
There are holidays, so to speak, and I think January 1 is kind of, you saw it with Cody Ellis, and I think it's probably similar. Yeah, the I don't know if I'd call it a fun part of the broadcast, Pete.
Well, these two guys, like I was cracking up, like just to start because like very nerdy, clearly students.
Yes. Like,
Um,
what are you like? Why are Division 1 students in their marquee programs putting students on the air?
yeah, I know. I was like, is there nobody in Carbondale who could call a game
Is
other than
John
these?
Rooney not around?
There's got to be somebody. These two dweeby students, like they were basically two versions of the Boom Goes the Dynamite guy who went
Yes.
viral back when I was in college.
And
The
shame,
light
first of all, shame on SIU for putting these kids on air in front of
they actually,
thousands of people.
based on my first impression, like watching them face the camera and talk for a couple minutes, I was like, oh, this is going to be a rough one. They were not as bad as I expected them to be. They were still not good, but like I got to give them credit for not being as bad as
They
I.
just didn't know what they were talking about.
No,
Like
not really.
that was what was bothersome. Is less so like the getting they didn't get things wrong. They called what they saw. That their delivery was fine. It was pretty decent, but it was just it was like, oh, come on, man. Give
Yeah,
me a
the insights, like
break.
keeping reminding us that we're such a good 3-point shooting defense. It's like clearly that's not the case, guys. But yeah, Zach. The other thing, like the lighting, like that they renovated that arena. The arena used to be a dump, but they renovated it, 12 years ago or so, and it's actually pretty nice. It's a pretty nice place to watch a game, but the lighting has like that kind of like bluish high school gym kind of look to it, and it didn't look great on screen. It looked like an old VHS video, by the way. Like HD has not arrived in Carbondale. I don't know
Hmm.
what's going on there, but I felt like I was watching an old VHS copy of SLU's worst ever performance in Carbondale, and yet it's a game in late 2023. It didn't make any sense at all. But Zach, all I could say to kind of wrap up the game is like this has to be rock bottom, right?
It only gets harder from here. I mean, the
Yeah.
schedule gets more intense. It's only more minutes without Mike Meadows. I find it incredibly hard to believe that he comes back and plays
I mean,
against
he
Drake. There's no way. He couldn't stand up straight.
no, that looked bad. Whatever just happened in that game looked really bad. If I'm certainly not expecting him back anytime soon. I know that
So
much.
what happens tomorrow morning after we release this episode?
Tomorrow morning, meaning like this morning, as people are
Mhm.
listening.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're paying close attention to all developments out of Midtown. But
I wonder. I mean, it. At what point does that just not cheese you off? Like as an athletic director, like I know that like these dudes that are athletic directors and men and women that are athletic directors, like I know that the point is to stay even keel at all times. But like, at what point does that just like, you watch your team lose by 40? Like, how do you not go in on Monday or walk into that locker room after the game and she's like, you know what? You're going to have to catch the Greyhound back to St. Louis because what I just spent 2 hours. It was like that. It was like in Hot Fuzz when they watched the play.
Yeah.
We would just watch 2 hours of so-called acting, and the kiss was the only convincing part. um, yeah, I think we just watched 2 hours of so-called basketball, and the mismanagement or the attitude of the players was the only genuine thing we watched.
Boy, that's for sure.
I don't like, and I don't know where this program goes because you've got so much tumultuous, so much of a tumultuous offseason. You have an alleged coup. You've got boosters that are split along. It's like Civil War, like Captain America Civil War. One side is certain boost. I don't want to name names, but at the end of the day, your booster that is front and center on the arena that donated 10 to 20 million or a certain million a certain amount of money to the Champion Center is now firmly invested in both pickleball and Formula One. And again, has not tweeted, I doubt either Rich or Ross were watching that game. Well, I know Ross was watching that game. And it just seems like they are not, they have had their fun with Billiken basketball and they are busy with other things. And I don't know. We need the fans to demand more from this program. We need the people. More importantly, we need the people with money to demand more out of this program. I think everybody who I think we were both wrong at the beginning of this season. I think we both said Travis Ford deserved. I think he'd earned 8 seasons by virtue of winning one NCAA tournament in 4 years. It's last season was bad. I think both of us were wrong. I think it should have been made. I think everything leading up to and including the offering of standing behind Travis Ford and his performance as head coach was mismanagement from top down. It's a tough place to be in when you put so much emotional effort into a program and it just feels like the boosters you kind of count on to push for things aren't paying attention. So what I'm saying is, Rich and Ross Schaaf, it's where the hell are you? Come on, like we don't need $2.5 million to find a coach that can do better than this. This is if you can all you want can if you want to say that Travis Ford has had decent results over the past 7 years, that's fine. You want to say he's earned this year because of results, fine. You want to say he's earning more years after this because of his results, fine. But for $2.5 million, there is absolutely no reason, you talked about it earlier, there is no reason that this program should have dipped below that line to be last in the A10 in KenPom.
Yes,
not
as of this recording.
That is
217.
You pay somebody $2.5 million, and as a steward of the program, they should be able to pilot this ship to nothing worse than a sixth place finish once every 4 years.
Yeah, I
Like,
definitely. You got.
no, go ahead, man.
All
I'm
right.
not.
I
I'm
didn't
not
know if
mad
you
at you.
had something
No,
else there.
I don't. Yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. You're a much more coherent human
So
than I.
I don't know, and I'm not going to call out any boosters by name because I don't know. I don't know where they're all at the moment.
That's my
But
point.
I will say
Uh,
they have to be collectively looking at this as, because they're the people who fund this salary, this contract. They're not. We've said for a while they're not getting their ROI, but like I don't think there's anyone in America getting less ROI than this program right now in terms of expenditures for a program versus return. This program, as you just said, is last right now in the Atlantic 10 in the Ken Palm ratings, which are, we'll just call them, as good as any other right now. The day that this drops on Monday, the first set of net ratings, the ones that actually count for the NCAA tournament, are going to come out. And I can pretty much assume we're going to be north of 200 in those. I mean, we've reached the status, Zach, where we're a bad loss, as someone put it in a text thread earlier today to us. This is it's just unacceptable for the amount that has been invested in this program to be an unwatchable product.
Yeah.
Last place in what has become a one bid league. It's unbelievable. It's just, I never thought it would get this bad. You talked about our comments heading into the season about Ford and his status and all of that. My point, especially on that think tank episode that we did, was that his right now we just have to roll with him because his contract is prohibitively expensive. Like, his buyout is just not something that we can bite off at this point in time.
And at
that
this
our
point, we're going to have to.
that our boosters are going to be willing to buy out, and then on top of that, pay another coach, and then on top of that, fund NIL for another coach, because any coach in college basketball is not going to take a job at this point without
I think
saying,
there's one.
do I have an NIL budget behind me, right? Like no one's going to take a job without that assurance. And so this game, this week, this game, this series of games has been bad enough that I think what I said just weeks ago is already wrong. I think there's going to be enough energy to go, this can't go on. This can't continue. I mean, like, this is horrible. and if that means it's going to cost somebody low eight figures to make this happen, they might be getting to that point, because this is now embarrassing.
I'll make you a deal with Chris May. I will be the head coach of Billiken basketball for $75,000 starting tomorrow. I will save you a lot of money. I can't do that math. But
well, just
but
knock
here's
some
what we're gonna
zeros
do.
off.
We are going to trap, press. We are going to run up and down the court, and that's it. I'm not playing any half court offense. I don't know how to run it. So just like Travis, I have no idea how to run a half court offense.
I guess the natural follow-up question there is, Zach, is May the one you should be pleading to, or does he have to be?
I hope
does
not.
he have to go too? Because I don't. I mean, he hired Cruz, he hired Ford. Do you want?
Does he get a third swing?
Yeah, I don't. That doesn't feel right to me.
I think
say.
you pinch hit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but here's the thing. I don't know if, like, what do you think Pastello's reaction to this game was? Does that matter?
You know, I think this is the level. So here's the thing, and my buddy Joe made this point, is that what did we lose? 5-point loss to Utah State doesn't really rise to the level of people noticing necessarily like something's really bad, right? Because they just see the score and they go, we lost by a couple baskets at home. That's unfortunate. Utah State's normally good, whatever. When you lose by 41 to Carbondale, you know, a team that you play most seasons You lose by 41 in that game, and then that raises eyebrows. And I don't think Costello like is sitting there with like a newspaper open and sees the score and it's just like, whoa. I think what happens now is people start chirping in his ear. Like
Yeah.
this has this has reached a stage where something needs to happen. Costello's his name gets brought up a lot, and I think there are people who like
I probably
don't like him.
overestimate.
I
I
the
don't like him. I don't like him.
university presidents, I don't think are as involved in the day to day of an athletic department as people want them to be. Maybe they have that impression because um, maybe they watch like how SEC football schools are run or something like that. But like he's like doubling the size of the endowment and like selling the hospital and like having new buildings built and like it's a completely different set of
Expensive
things.
roofs on.
It's a completely different set of concerns that he's going through. He's an academic, like his it's just totally different. And like the things that have happened at the high level at the university, a game against SIUC should not really be on his radar on his day to day, right? Like it's way down there. But I think this situation has reached a point where I think there have to be people in his ear saying all is not well in the athletic department. Your flagship program is tanking, and that giant salary and contract that we approved for this guy has kind of blown up in our faces. And the big shiny new buildings that we have for this program, well, the arena is empty now for games, and the Champion Center is being wasted if the program that actually generates money in this athletic department is going to be in this kind of situation. Like, I think that's the kind of thing that gets to his desk. Look, I don't think Costello is going to be the one like leading the charge the way like an SEC, a person who has like an SEC football fan base screaming in his ear every day. Like this isn't Texas A&M or whatever. But
thank God.
I also don't think Costello's ever going to stand in the way of progress at the athletic department. He hasn't before. I don't think he's ever been like the issue. I just think he's hands off, right? He's an academic. He's a university professor. It's what he is. And so I'm fine with that. Like just understanding like how duties are split at a university. I don't think that's where his attention is. But I hope that there are members of the board who are now like looking at this like this is embarrassing or this is a problem.
I expect that we have a spike in listenership, and I think it's worth maybe revisiting the way that we've seen in which this athletic department has the dysfunction. I think, on a public level, I think obviously it starts with, I think you have to start with the Stefan Bussell, Abu Magasa, Brad Azawiro, and of course, Bruce Zhang situation. You look at what was clearly, I mean, I think we're comfortable with calling it a lie, right? Like that, a lie saying that Bruce Zhang was eligible.
Yes.
I think we're comfortable. They flat out lied. They flat out lied that Bruce Zhang was eligible, only to pull that back the day before the day of the game,
the first game.
Yeah. We found out Sunday night. Which Sunday night? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think the knee injury certainly is something you have to question everything at that point. You can no longer trust the external word of the athletic department. But I think there's other things. There's the little things, right? I think, I've heard for 10 years, and I think it's funny because you and I, have a funny history, and I've probably been saying these things for a long time. And I think the point is that I've gotten to a point where I've heard it from enough people and told you that I've heard it from enough people that you've kind of started to realize that I'm not just coming up with shit. Like you and I have had a long, like a long history where you necessarily didn't believe things that I had to say. And that's fine because we didn't know each other, right? That well. Anyway. But I think, like I literally was told this by a former, like I think I could say it because I mean there's not going to be, nobody has any clue where I heard this. But the swim team, a couple years ago, I guess Chris May decided to erase the color black from all colors, like that SLU wears, right, in competition or whatever, as a part of their uniform. And then basketball got new all black uniforms, and we're given all black jumpsuits, tracksuits. And swimming and diving was he would report back to the coach that they were wearing black SLU swimming and diving shirts and gear into Chaffetz. And they were not supposed to be in the same time.
It's incredible. And I mean, and this is a program whose head coach left
because they wouldn't give him a raise
at the beginning of the season. Left abruptly.
Because he wasn't getting a raise. I'll just go ahead and say it.
To take an assistant job 2 miles down the road,
get paid more,
3 miles down the road at a D3 school. Yeah.
Do less. Coach Masters swimming. It's just, and it's swimming and diving. Like, I get it. We're sitting here, we're on a basketball podcast. Basketball is the thing, but this is just, it's the same shit. You have, like my worry is that you find a coach that doesn't want to work in this environment.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like, and that's why I think it has to be, if it's going to be one, it has to be both.
It has to be both. I'm of the strong opinion that the $2.5 million that Travis Ford was being paid, at least $500,000 of that is the Chris May tax. The cost of coming to work for Chris May.
Well,
that's what you have to pay me $500,000 extra if you want me to come work for you. And the power dynamic stinks. Travis Ford owns that athletic department right now.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Owns your ass, Chris.
He's the highest paid coach, and he's got, we know he's got a few more years guaranteed on his.
I'm not even gonna appeal to the level of like Chris May doesn't know what he's doing. Chris, take control of your athletic department. Like, do it. Like, you've been at this a long time, man. Come on.
But isn't that part of the problem, right? Isn't there like control being exerted in all the wrong ways? Like, we're seeing a lot of control in that, like, the cone of silence around the program all the time. Like there are probably people like who are hearing this and maybe know more about Ford's contract, but they don't say anything. Like, there are just because you're a private school doesn't mean you can't say we signed our coach through such and such year. Marquette does it. Yeah. Xavier does it. The programs we want to behave a certain way. We don't behave that way. There's silence around everything.
Yes.
And it's infuriating.
They hide behind the anonymity that goes along with, not anonymity, but the ability to not report because they are a private school. It's incredible.
And even Zach, it's even with good things. Like, even when good things are in the work, you and I will hear rumors about things that might be coming that are good, and they don't say that either. It's like, give us a rendering and say that something's on the way, even if it doesn't wind up being that rendering of like a new facility or something.
Yeah,
tease it out there because you've got funding for it, or you've got clearance or permits or whatever. So it's not just that, but like, it's a pattern, right? It's everything. It's the way the band situation was handled. Yes. It's the way the field hockey program has been.
Hold on. Let me get to the field hockey program because again, I don't know if have I actually said this, what's coming down the pipeline.
You hinted at it. Our
I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I've heard it from so many people. It doesn't matter anymore. Field hockey's getting an on-campus field. It's either going to be within the track and field within that track, that field is going to be converted into field hockey turf. Or I also heard, like, one rumor was that it was going to be connected to this, or it would be behind the softball field, behind the outfield.
Interesting. Is there enough
Because
room?
that's where like the it's going to be in conjunction with the SLU like facilities,
Okay.
like general school facilities.
That would be
So
fantastic.
yes, it's again, these are the things. There are many things that Chris May has done well, and to be honest with you, I would love for Chris May to be put in a fundraising emeritus role.
Sure. He's a good fundraiser.
Chris, you've been an outstanding. You've done a lot for this university as an athletic director over 10, 12, 15, how long has it been? It's been since 08,
Yeah.
at least.
I think that's about right.
15 years. So you've
good.
been here for 15 years. You've done great things, but we need to switch things around. We need to restructure the athletic department, and hey, get a nice cushy $250,000, $500,000 salary, whatever. I don't know. Cut his salary, whatever. Just go fundraise. Get us the new shiny shit.
Yeah. So fundraising skill of his, even though I do think it's he somewhat limits himself in the program, and he really only works that top first class
one thing at a
donors.
time. Well, that, and he only does one thing at a time, it seems like.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is the hiring for the other programs has been really strong.
It has.
Hiring and retention. Men's and women's soccer
has been phenomenal. That's been phenomenal.
Baseball, volleyball, the new volleyball coach, obviously. Yes. Up and down the board, we really, really like the coaches of these programs. Tillett has been a great hire for women's basketball. Like just all over that's been fantastic. So those two real skills, I think, have kind of overshadowed a lot of other issues. A lot of the things that we've brought up, way more issues that we've brought up.
There's
just the
so
day-to-day Nicola
things.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The front facing things there, it's very smoke and mirrors. Very much, I mean, not necessarily fake. It's not
legit.
Fake. It's legit stuff.
Yeah.
But he's like, there are so many times where I've heard 5 to 10 stories of people who they leave that athletic department, and it's not the disgruntled employee. It's they just get it beat out of them.
Well, they're understaffed and overworked. Yes.
And they bring in young people because they're not going to pay, they're not going to pay market value for a person with experience in a lot of positions.
SLU has a sports management major in the business school now, which is something that hasn't been there all that long. And that's a pipeline you can really exploit for either cheap or free interns, and then cheap new hires, because they're so desperate to get a foot in the door of the sports business world. And they're just gonna, for a while, they're gonna work as hard as they can, but after a while they're gonna look around and realize,
this place I'm
paid below market. I'm doing a lot of jobs that aren't my job. And like a lot of, like eventually they just go, oh, I can go do this somewhere else and get paid more.
Yeah.
Lindenwood. SIUE or like, that's just two local ones to name a couple.
And you talk about that sports management department, and then you it's interesting because you see the staff. I don't know if they've instituted a program with international students, but it's so, like, all of a sudden everybody working the events seems to be a international student from India. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, it's just a matter of fact. It's just, it's different. And, but like the hiring, like you look at the game day, the director of game day operations, that's just my generic name for him, because that's kind of what he handles. He handles the student workers. He oversees, supervises that. But like, he was the athletic director at Harissa. Like you're bringing in a guy that has never to be the game day operations that has at best done a game day for like 300 fans.
Mhm.
Like what skills are translating over here? Like you bring in that's a position you fill with like an assistant from the Big East, an assistant game day operation. You bring you like you take a game day operations director and make him assistant athletic director for game day operations.
Mhm.
That it's I don't know. I think there's just a lot. There's a lot of moving parts and in a lot of things. I feel like there's so many things that are going to have to go right in this next. I'm assuming coaching carousel because I just don't see. I don't see how we can continue next year. Um,
So is this something you think is going to happen after this season, during the season? Like, what do you think?
Man, what about? It's not necessarily about what I think because I don't really know.
Yeah.
Uh, I assume that Ford will no longer be the head coach at St. Louis University after this season. I can only assume that you don't come back from a 39 point loss to a regional rival. Um, but I think that if you're going to part with Travis Ford at the end of the season, I think you definitely should. Um, I think you just kind of have to figure out a way to get him to go on leave or let him sit at home, get paid. I just
The
I
rest of the way.
think I think like you kind of owe it to yourself to see what you have in Chris Harriman. The guy's been around for years as an assistant. I don't think it's Tate. I don't think Tate's the guy. I don't know what Tate does. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, Tate's always been our local guy, right? Like our local liaison, but the way that the recruiting landscape has changed with NIL,
yeah, it doesn't
I
matter.
I just don't know. I don't know anymore. Like just being a pure recruiter, how valuable it is. I don't know. I'd have to hear more insights into what else he's doing. But it's a position that I've always thought he's been great for.
Yeah.
It's just changed really fast. The landscape around him.
I
Yeah,
think you have to let Harriman like I think it there's really no downside to figuring out some way to, put Travis Ford on a leave of absence. I don't know, suspend him with pay. I don't freaking know. Um, but why not see what Harriman can do with the rest of it? And I think you can sit there and say, well, what about like the fool's gold that was Jim Cruz, right?
mhm.
But there's not anything here. Like this team doesn't have any accolades.
Yeah. I certainly I can't watch any more of what we just watched against Carbondale. I can't watch any more of what we were seeing against Utah State until the last 3 minutes. Um, this is not good.
I just
Uh,
want to
it,
thank Kevin Kalish and Katie Shields for keeping this podcast afloat.
well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, Zach, I don't know, man. I think, yeah, we've both kind of said our piece at this point, and I think
I want to hear from you guys as much as like I really tune everything out. Um, I just want I want people to make their voice known. Um,
I
and
mean, certainly they have been in our
oh
Twitter
shit.
mentions. I mean, we
Uh,
we've had more engagement, and really not for any extra tweeting over the past week
36
than we
yeah.
have in a long time, man. I mean, people are fired up, and like people we've never spoken to before coming out of the woodwork to kind of let us know what they think. That's for sure.
Um, Yeah, uh, uh, the the engagement on the Billiken official account is just.
We did it last week, reading through the negative comments.
Do you want to?
I can't even. Well, I can. I know. I mean, I pretty much know exactly
I
what it
think
is.
Instagram might be better. I think you did Instagram. We'll do Instagram again. I'll do it. I'll do it this time. Um, let's see. St. Louis. Oh, wait, hold on. I had it. It was in my. Um, okay. So the final 600. Wait, hold on. It was liked by 670 people.
What the final score,
Yeah.
which is
Um,
amazing, by the way.
that's wild. It has 62 comments, two more than the points scored by the Billikens.
Well, wait, no,
Um,
we actually scored 62, so it's
oh,
the
that's right.
same.
So it equals.
We got those bonus points.
Totally unacceptable. Lose to some hick school by 41 points. If SIU did this to us, what's Drake gonna do? Travis Ford has to go. He's lost the fan base and the players. What did Steven? They have some good players, just not a great coach. Why does Travis Ford still have a job? Ford can't coach himself out of paper bag. Women's soccer school, leave Ford in Carbondale. Fire Ford, fire him now. Or no, fire Ford, fire May. Oh, would you look at that? Travis Ford ruining a basketball program. User, that's from user 2935926398958. Yeah,
Hmm.
fantastic. Yeah, it's Ford. Holy shit. Ford ruined Javante Perkins by rushing him back, then not playing him when he was well. If he keeps pulling Bruce Zhang every time he makes a mistake, Zhang should transfer out. Without Corey Tate, SLU would never recruit a local kid. Time for a change. What is it?
Ugh.
Dumpster fire. May out. Disgraceful. How do we go from having French, Goodwin, and Collins and Perkins this dumpster fire? Um, yeah, it's really bad, guys. It's really bad. It's almost as bad as this segment. Um, oh wow. Wow. Wait, is this who I think it is? Wow. Wait, is that related to yes, wow. Um, wow. Margot Lubis's husband, I think, or brother. Wait, no, or brother-in-law, John Lubis commented on this, and it was not nice.
On Instagram.
Yeah. Surprised actually. I don't. Well, I know he's part of, like he's a Lubis. Like there, she's in pictures. But I guess Margot isn't even technically involved anymore, so that doesn't really matter.
No, she retired.
Yeah. She got out. She saw the writing on the wall. Um, where is the competing? He said this is totally unacceptable. Tough decisions to be made for sure. Um, yeah, my mouth is dry from talking. These pretzels are making me thirsty. Yeah, let's where do we want to go from here, Pete?
Well,
We're, we're
we had before this debacle, we had kind of
I don't think
prepared
we have time to do
a
that.
conversation about developing bigs at this
Uh,
program. I don't think it's relevant at the moment. So I think we kick that to next week. And I think we go around the A10.
do you worry about the where our boosters are at?
I mean, sure. Yeah, it's something I think about. I never really worry about them. I mean, like before I was worried that they didn't have the mentality, in terms of what they want to do and with NIL. Like I didn't think they were there yet with NIL. I was worried about that, but maybe they're just not going to fund it until we have a different coach in place or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried that we're experiencing a multi-year setback right now at the worst possible time. But that's
Because
probably a
and we're gonna get
conversation for
into
another
that.
show.
because we're going to go around the A10. And while the Billikens are floundering, the A10, is it back?
Had a pretty good week, Zach.
Yeah.
Pretty good week overall. And it started off,
Pretty okay.
yeah, it started off with what they called the Battle of the Bronx, or I think they called that. But Fordham beat Manhattan 93-61 on Monday the 27th. And then on Tuesday the 28th, Loyola won its own local battle 62-53 over Chicago State. Although that one looked a little shaky at times, Zach.
It did. It did. Wednesday, the 29th, a shocker. St. Joe's goes in and torches the Nets at Villanova, 78-65 over the number 18 team in the nation. But Nova has not looked very good under Neptune this year. George Mason beat the perennial whipping boy of college basketball, New Jersey Institute of Technology. 86-68. Duquesne 66, UC Irvine 62, Temple 106, LaSalle 99 in triple OT. Wichita,
that was a crazy one.
That was wild. Wichita State 80, Richmond 68, Davidson 85, Charlotte 81, Dayton 65, SMU 63.
Hang in there, Zach.
Yeah.
We've still got a little ways to go. Thursday the 30th, Fordham won again, 80 over Fairleigh Dickinson, 52. They have fallen off since last year, I guess. Friday, December 1st, Norfolk State 63, VCU 60. I know that one shocked their fans. They had sold out Siegel Center for it, only to watch them get upset. And then South Carolina 89, George Washington 67. That wasn't the best day, but overall Saturday, take SLU out, it was a pretty good day for the league.
Yeah, Dayton 76, Grambling 46. No word as to the charges of Cartier Gordon. St. Bonaventure 80, Buffalo 65. It should have been Jim Whitesell. Pete. Davidson 82, Wright State 73, UMass 66, South Florida 56, Loyola 75, Harvard 53, LaSalle 93, Penn 92, and OT. Wild ass finish in that one as well.
Even wilder than the previous game for LaSalle.
Richmond 88, William and Mary 69, nice. George Mason 86, Toledo 77, St. Joe 74, Temple 65, Providence 84, Rhode Island 69, nice. And then Sunday,
Fordham couldn't win all three this week. Tulane 89, Fordham 81, and that was at Fordham as well.
Pete, do we even want to preview Drake?
Let's do it quickly.
Yeah,
let's
run us down quickly.
Okay.
Tell us how bad we're going to get just destroyed.
Well, these games are part of a larger issue for SLU. We play at Drake in Des Moines, Iowa on Wednesday the 6th, and then we come home to play Hofstra on Saturday the 9th. Drake, 7-1 overall, 4-0 at home. Their only losses to Stephen F. Austin, kind of a surprise on a neutral floor, but they've beaten everybody else. No marquee names yet. They've been good, though. Darian DeVries is the head coach. He's in his 6th season.
Future Billiken coach.
He won 20 games in his worst season so far. He's won 24-27 in every other season there. They have 4 guys who score 13 or more points per game. The junior guard, Tucker DeVries, same name as the coach, probably just a coincidence. He averages 20.1 points a game, 6.6 rebounds, 3 assists. He's 6'7", 210, so he's kind of a matchup problem. He'll shoot from anywhere. So far this season, his percentage is actually way up inside the arc and way down from outside. So I'm sure that'll kind of regress to the mean over the course of the season, but he shoots a ton regardless. Kevin Overton is a 6'5" freshman averaging 13.5 points a game, 3.5 rebounds. When Stephen F. Austin, the one team that beat Drake, did everything they could to minimize DeVries' impact, Overton's the one who kind of stepped up the most. Darnell Brody is the one who may be the star of this game. He's 6'10", 275, averages about 14 and 7. He's a 6-year senior who started out at Seton Hall. He's got a ton of experience. He's a load inside. He's shooting over 70% from the field, pretty much just looking to score at the basket. And he's a surprisingly good free throw shooter at 85% this year. If he watched the Utah State game at all, he's got to be drooling over this matchup. And then Aiton, I guess that's his first name, Atin, Wright, is a 6'1" junior guard averaging 13 points.
A10.
Eight. I don't know why I didn't think of that when I looked at that. He's a Cal State Northridge transfer who started the season really hot, but his last 4 games, he's kind of cooled off. They've been his worst 4 so far. One word to describe this team is disciplined. They don't turn it over. They don't foul much. They don't take bad shots. They move it around really well before they find their shot. They're a very good free throw shooting team. They do play a pretty conservative game. They don't hit the offensive glass hard. They're kind of like a Majerus or Soderberg team. They just want to get back on defense and get set. Drake was picked to win the Valley this season, Zach. And aside from a off night against Stephen F. Austin, they've really looked the part of the league favorite so far. SLU actually did beat them at home last season by 8. So I guess they'll want revenge, but I don't know. Maybe this is a team we play well. Yeah, I don't feel great though. Hofstra is a really interesting team, 5-2 this season. They've beaten South Florida, Buffalo, High Point, Wright State, and St. Joe's, Long Island, lower division team. And their only losses are to Princeton and George Washington, both of which have looked like, better as the season has progressed. Their head coach is Speedy Claxton, probably the most famous Hofstra grad. He graduated in 2000 and then played 10 seasons in the NBA for 5 teams after being drafted 20th overall by the Sixers. He's in his 3rd season there. He won 21 in his first year, 25 in his second. And that's a big number, Zach, at Hofstra. He went 16-2 in conference last year. He can coach. Tyler Thomas is the top player on the team. He's a 6'3" senior guard, averages 25 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's in his 2nd season at Hofstra after transferring from Sacred Heart. He can really get hot and take over a game. He's shooting almost 19 shots a game and about 11 3-pointers a game, but he makes those at a 45.3% rate. So I would say you're not shooting enough threes, arguably. But the worst part here is they have a number 2 on this team who's a major threat. Darlin Stone Dubar, one of my favorite names in all of the game. He's a 4th-year transfer. He played his freshman season at Iowa State before joining Claxton at Hofstra. He scores 19.1 points a game, and he shoots 72.5% inside the arc. He's 6'6". He'll also shoot the 3. He shoots over 5 of them a game, and you can't put him on the free throw line either. He'll punish you there. Jaquan Carlos is a 6-foot junior guard. He averages a triple nickel, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists a game. He makes the offense move and feeds those 2. Bryce Washington is a senior guard who averages about 7.5 and 4.5. They do have some size, but they're not the focal points on this team by any means. They've got a 6'10", 210 senior from the Netherlands who averages 5 and 5. Jaco Fritz is his name. And Silas Sunday is a 7-foot, 290-pound sophomore. He's big. I remember him as a high school recruit. He's from Ireland, but he played his high school ball near Hofstra at Long Island Lutheran. So he's kind of a project. He averages 4 and 4, but they should throw him in there against SLU and give him some run. Hofstra scores almost 85 points a game. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country, just about 80%. They don't get to the line a lot, though, because they're such a good shooting team, and they don't do a lot inside. But they're one of the best teams from beyond the arc at over 40%. They're efficient on all 3 levels. For a guard-heavy team, they're actually a really good defensive rebounding unit. They're not a good offensive rebounding team, but part of that is they don't miss much, and part of that is they're not very big. They were actually picked to finish 4th in their league behind Charleston, UNC Wilmington, and Drexel, which, by the way, we know Charleston's been one of the best non-power conference teams in the last couple of seasons. UNC Wilmington just won at Kentucky, and Drexel just beat Villanova. This is a really good team in a really good league. Zach, I don't feel great about these 2 games, but I don't feel great about the rest of the schedule, because when you look at the KenPom ratings, this schedule feels like it was kind of designed to outsmart the RPI. And I am saying RPI and not net, which is the system that they actually use today. I remember back when Missouri State, I want to say this was 2007, they finished number 22 in the RPI, and they didn't get an at-large bid. This is when the RPI actually mattered, because they didn't really beat anybody good, right? Like they, along with the Valley at the time, started to figure out that if you avoid the bottom teams, like the bottom 100 or so, bottom 150, and played a lot of teams that are kind of in the 50 to 150 range. And then your bye games would be in like that 150 to 250 kind of range that you could really boost your rating. Right. So they
This
kind of,
sounds like building aerobic base for like
they,
endurance sports.
they kind of gamed the system in a way that was like, we don't have to pick off power conference teams if we just avoid the worst teams in D1. And that's kind of what our schedule looks like this year. There's a lot of those teams in the middle. If we were a 75-ish team, this would be an ideal schedule because we could look really strong and rack up wins against solid mid-tier teams. But unfortunately, we're a 200 plus team right now, and we're going to be the underdog basically for the rest of the season, unless something changes for some of our opponents drastically. Because, like you said, we're last in the A10 right now in the ratings, and we're rated behind everybody else in our non-conference schedule. Do I think we're going to lose out? No, we're not going to
Yes.
lose out. But we're basically an underdog the rest of the season, Zach. And these game previews have really gotten me down lately. When I did Utah State and Carbondale, I was kind of like, we could be in trouble this week. No idea how bad it would be, but now I'm looking at these two teams and I don't like these ones either.
No. Pete, things are not good in Billiken land. But you know what is always good and is always reliable, Pete?
I do, Zach. Two men in a garden.
That's right.
They are always reliable, as I've attested to a lot in recent
Their shipping
weeks.
is reliable, is it not?
It's very reliable. It's $9.99 nationwide. You can't beat it. But really lately, I've kind of had my eye on a lot of their branching out more. Their Kitchen Hub STL products are really cool. They've got cocktail syrups from River City Craft. They've got Antonino's Tavern, if you've ever been there on the hill. Really good. They've got their marinara sauce, which I have been meaning to pick up, and I probably will next time. They've got some rubs and spices from Big Baby Spice Company. They've got these float trip candied jalapenos that I'm kind of got my eye on too. They've got coconut butters from
They just
Coconut
have
Kitchen.
everything.
Yeah, and they've got some spice rubs from Jovic Brothers that also look pretty great. I also might pick up some pistachios from Tastachios is the name of the brand. From they've got a wood fired pistachio in two different sizes there. Anyway, the bottom line here is these Kitchen Hub STL products that they, I guess they serve as a sort of hub where local companies can come make their stuff out of their facility, and they will ship these products to you. They're for sale on their website. Pretty good variety. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the quality is pretty great on these two. I've been to Antonino's before. Great marinara sauce. I think I'm going to pick some of that up next time I make pasta and meatballs for the kids. And you can find all these products at twomeninagarden.com. And a lot of these are going to be in your local retailers as well, Schnucks and everywhere else in the St. Louis area. But twomeninagarden.com, and you get $9.99 nationwide shipping. Can't beat it.
Some news outside of some local college news, and we'll just go through this really quickly. Lindenwood's cutting sports. Pete, I think some people took this as maybe Lindenwood have expanded too fast, but they've always had these teams, and this just seems to be them kind of aligning their sports with the Ohio Valley in Division I, and cutting a lot of sports that really don't have a spectator factor, as I kind of have coined. Off campus, or just sports that people don't go and watch.
They had a lot more sports than I think people would have realized.
Oh,
Right, like
they ran it like Stanford. They
the ones that are cut are men's lacrosse, men's swimming and diving, women's as well, men's tennis, men's indoor and outdoor track and field, and wrestling. And then on the women's side, in addition to swimming and diving, they cut gymnastics and field hockey, and then the cycling program for both men and women.
not a single person was shocked that they canceled cycling, but it's interesting. So I have some like I follow some people in the area, some cycling people in the area, and one of them is a bike fitter. Um, and he just fit one of the Lindenwood cyclists and was like kind of made a joke like how my bike fit studio now the official is my bike fit studio the official bike fitter of Lindenwood cycling like 2 days before this dropped. I was like, oh, that's weird.
Well, apparently a lot of the athletes were surprised too. I don't think they knew this was coming. So,
How do you not how do you not give them like I mean, I guess you can't give them a year, like everyone leaves, like what are you gonna do?
yeah, it's a shame to hear about all of them, and it's in December, right? So
Yeah.
they're in the late first semester zone of the school year. This isn't like something that they found out about as it's not like mid second semester when you're thinking about next year, right?
Yeah.
Like if you know, I guess it's good to have as much notice as possible, but it is an unusual time for sure.
Yeah, I think again, this is again to align themselves more closely with what the Ohio Valley offers. Their strategy prior to moving to NCAA actually was really Olympic, get as many international students to the Olympic sports as possible, and then commuter students. That really was their enrollment strategy.
Yeah.
Ping pong, archery, seriously,
Yeah.
synchronized swimming, all those, like they would bring in students from everywhere. And I mean, soccer was a huge part of that too. Like their soccer team was always international.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think field hockey and men's lacrosse and then men's track and field are two that are mainly going to be Title Niners. Um, it's interesting to see them. I think the interesting thing is that they're holding on to women's track and field. That seems weird. So, because it's such kind of an expensive overhead sport, I think in a lot of ways.
To keep one and not the other. But
Yeah, like I guess,
yeah, because they generally they travel together and compete together, right? Like the
yeah,
men's and women. So that is a weird one to axe one side, but I would say that the men's would be a Title IX casualty there, right? Because football is such a behemoth.
yes.
So I think that's kind of a math thing right there.
Oh yeah. Swimming and diving plays at the or competes at the Recplex. So like
Yeah, off
again, they're
campus.
not going to build a pool on campus. Um, SLU probably wouldn't have swimming and diving if there wasn't a pool at Simon.
Oh, for sure. Right.
And field hockey, as much it is a Title IX, I mean, it's off campus. It's at Sportport. Um,
Right.
I wonder if you'll see any track and field on the men's side, as well as I wonder if you'll see any of these.
Wind up.
Men's, women's swimming and diving, men's tennis, women's field hockey. I wonder if you'll see any of that come over this way.
It's certainly an opportunity,
Yeah,
to recruit locally for SLU. So yeah, I sure would be taking a look at those teams and what you
see if
need
there's
next year for
anybody.
sure. Yeah.
Pete, women's basketball going through a bit of a rough stretch without their star point guard, Julia Martinez. They have struggled to say the least. I'll get us started off with a 78-59 loss at Wichita State Friday the 1st. The Billikens got into a 22-9 hole in the first quarter, and it just really, I thought they played well after that, but again, it doesn't really count for much.
Hmm.
Um, Bills went 34.8% from the field, but only 12% from three and an uncharacteristic 57 from the line. Gray, Shavers, Clegg had 11 points each. Shavers had 9 rebounds. She, McMakin, and Kennedy all fouled out in this one. It was an off night for McMakin, 7 points, and Kennedy as well, 4 points. Tierra Simon had 8 rebounds and 4 blocks. Wichita State out rebounded SLU 53-37. They got to the line 39 times compared to just 14 for SLU. Wichita won by 19. They had 20 more made free throws than SLU. I thought the refs were really bad in this one. I don't know if it ended up mattering, but like they just weren't very good. I thought
No,
a lot of it was I thought Wichita State was afforded a lot of leeway. in a lot of
Yeah,
different
and
ways.
that in and of itself wasn't going to be the difference. Martinez herself wasn't going to be the difference in this one, but a lot of things like that add up, and you kind of go, it's just kind of a disappointing day. But unfortunately, Zach, they lost again this time at home against Ball State on Sunday the 3rd. This game was back and forth for the most part, but the bottom line to me is just one stat in this game: 30 turnovers. That's how many times the Bills coughed it up. Calhoun and Gray had 8 apiece. A few other players had 4. Just a tough day with the ball. SLU actually outshot Ball State 51% to 42%. But when you're +8 in turnovers and you're -7 in field goal attempts, that's going to catch up with you. SLU also only attempted 7 3-pointers. They just haven't been shooting many threes lately, which is odd. It's the second straight game that they didn't get to the line a lot, and they didn't shoot it well there either, going 7 for 12, which is again pretty unusual for them. McMakin had 22, Kennedy had 20 and 11, but she fouled out again. Calhoun had 10 and 5. SLU got just 10 bench points. Bree Johns actually started, but she didn't score. Shavers had 2 points, and Tierra Simon had 4. This is another game where they're just not getting any offensive production out of that front court. And Zach, the bottom line is Martinez is the straw that stirs the drink, right? As long as she's out, they're just struggling to make things go offensively. The good news is she was on the bench in this one with no brace or boot. So hopefully she's back soon.
Yes, thank you to our women's basketball correspondent, Lord Elrond. That dude loves himself some non-rev sports on Billikens.com.
He pays attention to everything. I give him credit.
Yes, he does. Next up is Southern Indiana on the 6th and SIU Carbondale on Saturday at SIU Carbondale on Saturday night. Dear sweet Jesus, please let us get some revenge on that one.
It's so weird. The women are playing all the same teams as the men this year. There's so much overlap.
They might as well have saved
Southern
some money
Indiana.
and traveled together.
Right. Like schedule them all at the same time.
Some interesting women's soccer news. Actually, some very exciting women's soccer news.
Yeah.
Riley Howard, welcome to the Billikens, sophomore forward from Wisconsin. She made the Big Ten all-freshman team 2 seasons ago, but her minutes decreased as a sophomore. She went to Lafayette High School, where she was the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2021. She will have 2 more years of eligibility. The next one will be a little bit overshadowed by Riley Howard joining the squad, but I think this one is going to really pay dividends, not only this year, but going forward after that.
Yeah. And this is Camille Welker, who's a sophomore defender from Iowa. Like Howard, she played more minutes as a freshman than as a sophomore, and her minutes went down considerably this year. She went to Coriezo Academy for high school, so she's also returning home, and she's also going to have 2 more years of eligibility remaining. But yeah, I think you kind of were wondering what we do about sort of the core of our formation this year, right?
Yeah, this is definitely one of them, but I think this one's going to do really well to bridge that gap after this season as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we're going to lose a lot after this
year. Yes. The players that we will end up losing eventually are actually confirmed to return for this season. And that's friend of the show, Lindsay Heckel, Katie Hauk, Sophia Stram, Emily Percelli, Caroline Kelly, and Hannah Larson have all confirmed to return for their 5th season. All are listed as seniors except Larson, who is on the roster as a redshirt junior.
Yeah, so we suspected that most of them would be back, given that they didn't participate in senior day festivities. But to have it made official by the team just reminds us how good and how deep they're going to be yet again. And there's always things that can change in terms of transfers and everything, but at least we know they're not moving on, and they're going to be coming back to school in one form or another. Abby Miller, Anna Lawler, Emily Groark, and Jess Preußer were the ones who are departing.
The greatest triplets in the history of college soccer.
That's right.
Anna Lawler, Abby Miller, and Emily Groark.
I know. Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure. And we normally don't cover like awards and stuff this year or on the show, just because there's so many weekly player of the conference player of the week or whatever,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But Emily Gaby was named first team All-American. Lindsay Heckel made the second team. She was first team last year. And then Gaby is a Herman Trophy semifinalist. So like I said, we normally don't cover these awards, but this is these are big recognitions. So
It's a
credit to
big,
them and credit to the whole team.
it is very new. It is uncharted territory for Billiken athletics in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, these are
On
the
the
kind of things
women's
that
side specifically.
you put this stuff on the wall, right? Of like
Yes.
that soccer center. It's like we're now producing All-Americans. I mean, this is a big deal. So congratulations to them and to the program.
As I predicted on Twitter, I will predict it here again. Emily Gaby will win the Herman Trophy as a Billiken.
I love the prediction, Zach. I love it.
Let's
hope she does.
Track and field, Pete. Indoor season is now underway. I know John Bell was very excited on Twitter for indoor season. He doesn't have to stand out at the the cross country meets. No,
those can be some cold, long days.
The guy who rode across America on his bike. I think he's good. Illinois State, the John Coughlin invite this past weekend. The men first place finishes Carson Amstutz. Go ahead, Pete. Just go ahead.
I'm going to say Amstutz.
400
meter, he ran a 51:31. Jaden Kawaido in the high jump, 1.88 meters. That's a personal record. And I want to say that's a program record too. As was Evan Brenderman's triple jump of 14.69 meters. Maybe those are both just PRs. I want to make sure I'm getting that right. Ethan Bryant, the heptathlon 60-meter hurdles, he ran an 8.58. So those were the first place on the men's side. And then on the women's side, the 4x400 relay won with a time of 3:58:30. Samantha Kunza on the weight throw set a new school record. She's a transfer. So this is new. She's new to the team. 18.52 meters. She shattered the old record there. And then Emily Nichols in the 60 meter ran a new school record of 7.74 seconds. Yeah, she continues to just keep getting better and better too.
Well, I believe she posted on social media one last ride or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Cool. It's so funny though because we've spent so much time covering cross country that like you forget that some of these athletes don't compete.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
Samantha, did you say Samantha Kunz is a newcomer?
Yeah, didn't she transfer in from Alabama or something?
Oh, I don't know, because it just says
yeah, Alabama.
Oh, it's interesting because it doesn't say, all it says is that she's a graduate student and she went to Timberland.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, this is her first season at SLU. She's the one in the picture too. When you click on the article about this, that's her.
Yeah. Wow. She smashed the record.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely destroyed it. So, welcome to the program.
Yes. You look better in blue than crimson.
Sure. For sure.
Yeah, that's going to do it, Pete. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot to chew on, Zach. This was a long episode, way longer than we would have expected it to be a week ago.
It to be really.
Yeah, no, it's not good news. Not good news, but
don't forget to leave a comment. Seriously, comment. Tweet at us, man. Like if you don't like if you're on audio only, tweet at us. If you're on YouTube, comment on the video. Get involved. Let's make, if you believe that make your voice heard. I don't care who you are, whether you're a big time booster or just a schmo like me and Pete. Like just do something. Just help. That's gonna do it, Pete. And no matter what happens, go Bills.
Go Bills.